Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again on my YouTube channel. This is Workshop Quick Takes. In the previous couple episodes, we were inside the doors on my 2000 Jeep Cherokee XJ looking at the latch assemblies and replacing them because one was defective on the passenger side and the one on the driver's side, even though it was just a little bit stiff and bound up but still working, it was going to be out pretty soon. The thing about old doors though is if you've got one project inside your door, you've probably got 2 or 3 or 4. In particular, what about your door check straps? When you open your door, does it stay open or does it tend to flop shut? That's another wearing part that you can get at while you're inside the door. We're not going to go through the door disassembly in quite as much detail. If you've never done that before, please watch 2 episodes ago when we started our door latch project. Otherwise, if you're somewhat comfortable with the idea but still want to see how to do your check straps, let's go and take a look at that. Today I'm tackling another common problem on older vehicles. It can be really irritating and even a safety issue, and it's the fact that when I open this door, there's nothing to hold it. Just opens all the way, closes on its own, falls under gravity. If you've seen this before on your car, especially if it's about 10 years old or more, or if any particular door has been opened and closed frequently, what's causing that is called the door check strap, and you can replace it at home, although you do need to get into the door, which can be aggravating for some people. But it's eminently feasible with basic tools. The door check strap is this delightful little fellow here. I mean, obviously we have a hinge, we have another hinge, we have the boot that passes the wiring harness, and then this is the device that actually stops the door from opening past the hinge limit and tearing them off. But the problem is, it has a couple little rollers or clamps or something like that on the inside, and those do wear out after a while. And then the door no longer sits in its intermediate position, because normally it should stop about here before opening all the way, and it shouldn't be able to fall closed on its own either. So the device we're looking to replace is called a door check strap, and you can generally order these from most common vehicle makes and models. Sometimes if you can't get one for your vehicle exactly, if you do a little searching on the internet, you can find one from another model by the same manufacturer. In this case, it's hard to beat this design here. This is a fairly high quality one. It's all metal construction and it has a nice heavy rubber stop right here. This one also comes pre-greased, which is good, but make sure you don't get that anywhere you don't want it. In order to get inside this particular door, there are 4 locations where we must find screws. One of them is up here, there are 3 more along the door handle here, and then there is one right here behind this plate. Sometimes on doors, when you remove this screw behind the plate pops out, but not on this one. It's actually permanently mounted into the rest of the door assembly. Okay, next step for this door is there are plastic retention clips in kind of a U shape all the way along the bottom half here. Alright, the next step for this door, which I need to do very carefully, is lift it out of a plastic channel that's popped into up here. In order to continue disassembling this door, there's 2 things we're going to have to do very carefully. We need to release the lock and the door latch attachments right there and right there. And then we also need to unplug 2 wiring harnesses there and there. Okay, there's the door panel completely released, and some of these tabs have gone missing or broken. We will be replacing a few of those. Next step for today is I do have to remove the factory speaker. This particular one only uses 2 screws, and if you do have plans on changing your factory speakers, this is the time to do it because you've already got the door apart anyway. The other reason why I have to remove this speaker is that in order to get access to all this stuff in here, I need to remove this moisture barrier, and this one happens to be screwed into it. That may not be true on your vehicle. This particular one is kind of a foam rubber sheet. But some vehicles, it's just a big piece of plastic and it's attached around the perimeter with a black sticky mastic, which will get everywhere if you're not careful with it. The speaker's been hacked together before and not very well by the look of it. In any case, this one also has a simple spring clip retention mechanism. There we go. My next step is going to be removing this moisture barrier. And originally, it had an adhesive layer all the way around it, but that adhesive is dried up and done with age. Save this, it will be reused. Looks like this particular one has a pair of 10mm bolts there, and although I could remove 2 bolts to disattach this bracket here, this bracket does not come with a replacement unit. So what I need to do instead is push this pin out, which I'll do by loosening the door slightly and then working it out with the pliers, and then snapping it back in when I'm done with a little bit of fresh Sil Glide compound or something like that on there in order to keep that a little bit nicer. Going forward from here, I want to make sure I don't have a strong wind or anything that's going to yank the door apart, because once I detach this, it's possible for the door to swing hard against the hinges and actually crack the welds. So, save it, you will be reusing it. That's one. Okay, the check strap's now completely loose, and since I gotta work my hand up in there, I'm going to lose the watch. Okay, so this one just kind of works its way down around the wiring harness. And there it is. That's the old one, and I should not be able to do that by hand. You can see it's pretty much fallen apart. And the reason it's fallen apart is the spring has broken off. Here's our new one. Let's just double check real quick that our bolt spacing is the same. And it appears that it is, although it may give some little bit of fuss going back in there. The only thing to remember is that this little tab here was facing us when the old one came out. So it needs to be facing us when the new one goes in. It's the same process, just kind of work it back up in there. Okay, there we go. We've now gotten that past there. Okay, now before snugging those up completely, let's make sure our pin lines up. So I'm going to have to pull on it just slightly, but not too bad. Go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a little sill glide on that before snugging it all the way. That's a bit much, but I'll wipe off the excess here in a minute. Looks like I might have to get a little hammer and just tap that home. Let's make sure I can't do it with the wrench first, though. Oh, there we go. Okay. Unfortunately, the extra springiness does make that pop a little bit. In any case, it's definitely working, so we'll go ahead and finish tightening these bolts. These need to be snug, but they're not a critical suspension component or something like that, so don't overdo it. They're pretty small, and you don't want to rip them off. I'm going to go get a paper towel and just wipe off some of the excess sill glide, and we should be done with that step. Okay, if you have no other repair work to do, then your job is done. You just need to finish reassembling the door, and that is done exactly the opposite of how we got it off. But I've got more repairs to do, so I'll be working on this for a while. That solves a major age-related problem, and now allows the door to have a first open position, a second open position, and it will stay in either of those positions unless sufficient force is applied to close it. Here's a helpful modification we did later. If you lose the pin, break the pin, or just don't like the pin, you can work a 1/4-inch bolt and nut set into the pin hole with no other modifications. Fiddle with it a bit and the nut will turn on by a few threads, but it's jammed against the frame just tight enough that it can't back itself out. We used a grade 8 bolt because we had it lying around, but since the original pin was formed from something resembling stamped sheet metal, we're guessing any kind of ductile metal pin might work instead. For example, a number 10D common nail, provided you trimmed and bent over the bottom end a bit to keep it from backing out. Everyone, thanks for joining us again today. Appreciate you coming along for the ride. Hopefully you found that helpful, inspirational. Maybe there's some project going on in your vehicle, maybe even a check strap in your door that's been giving you some grief and you've just kind of been ignoring it because it seems like it's too much trouble to do. Well, it is doable at home using basic tools. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, make your ride better for your needs. We'll see you again next time, whenever that is. Has anyone seen my phone?